Namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome to this session where I'm here with David Palmer, who's known as the Leo King. And I feel that we're going to go deep with also this lightness. That's the energy I'm picking up. So stay aware what you feel and share with us throughout the session because we're here to support you and we're here to awaken and grow together. So, David, welcome.
Thanks for having me on here. Super happy to be here.
Yeah. It's wonderful to have you here. And actually, David and I, we're both going to be at the New Living Expo, which is, I think it's in the Bay Area. It's in San Rafael
Yeah.
on the 17th to 19th of April. So, yeah, I look forward to meeting you in person. And yeah,
Same here. And then we have so many amazing people out there and so many gifted people. And really, there's like a renaissance happening around this expo and it really being like rebirthed again in many ways. And it's super
yeah,
exciting to be part of it.
I feel it. It's expansive. So, yeah, where I feel like I want to start our session right here is with you. Like, if you could share a bit about your journey and also about awakening for you, how it's been, how it's unfolded, because I feel like others who are awakening, when they hear about someone else who's already been on this path for a while, it gives hope and encouragement to keep going because this journey, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's deep, it's strong, it's intense. So yeah, over to you. Please share with us.
Oh, it is very deep. I love that you bring how intense it is because I've always loved intensity. So for me, it really began through astrology. I'm an astrologer. That's why I'm at the expo, and that's what I'm known for, spiritually wise, is my number one tool, I'd say, and spiritual gift that I'm here to offer. And so for my awakening, it really started young with just basic astrology, sun signs, knowing I was a Leo. And it was not until I was put into I joined the military at 18 years old. So I went into the US Navy. And I'm in the Navy, and it's in the middle of the Iraq war that begins while I'm in boot camp. And something just started to feel like off. Like why me? Why do I join the military and I'm in boot camp and now it's like we're going into war? Like they made it like war boot camp too out of nowhere. And so, I kind of lived that feeling and then long story short, I'm in the middle of boot camp or after boot camp, and I'm in during the war, and I end up doing rescue swimming. And then I didn't enjoy that because I was a water polo player my whole life and swimmer. And
Mm.
I'm like, what do I want to do? And they offered me any job in the Navy, and I love Top Gun, so I worked on F-18s. And I went to an F-18 squadron, and I'll never forget this moment. It's about a year in, and a bunch of our planes in our squadron just bombed Iraq and were part of Operation Iraqi Freedom. And they're having me put these bomb stickers right next to where the pilot comes into the cockpit area by the canopy. And I go, what does that represent? And they're like, oh, that's for every 100 tons of ordnance that this plane's dropped.
Whoa.
And it was really weird because it was like 2003, this moment. And the movie Loose Change came out. I don't know if you remember that movie. It was like about 9/11, like what really
Oh,
happened. It was on DVD. And I'm like huddled up in my barracks with a couple guys in the military watching on those old Magnavox 13-inch TVs with the DVD player that had come out. And we're like watching this thing like in the barracks, like it's a contraband, like we're not supposed to be watching something like that. And that's when I had my great kind of like first part of the awakening, like I'm not supposed to be here. So I
oh,
ended up going AWOL,
yeah.
ended up in the brig in prison for 30 days, but I got out 30 days later and pursued my astrology life, which was really wild because once I got really deep with my astrology, it was like all my past lives of being in the military came up, and it was all supposed to hit at 18 years old. And that's when I was like, every past life I go to war, I go battle as a knight, or I go battle as a warrior, or I go battle for a king, or I go do right. And it was like I did the same thing again, but I woke up in the middle of it, right at 18 years
Whoa.
old. So So
Goosebumps. Whew.
I know that's kind of weird, but like, so that was the beginning of my true awakening experience and doing astrology with the charts and secondary progressions. And I kind of flirted with like coming out as a professional astrologer for many years. It was very difficult for me to do it because it was very taboo. If I brought it up, people thought I was crazy or they didn't believe in it. It was not that, exciting like it has been over the last decade, right? It was like, it was not that cool. It was actually like almost kind of frowned upon. But I still went with it and I used reality TV to bring it out, right?
Awesome.
So kind of a weird way to do it, but the internet wasn't really a thing still.
Mm.
And it was actually through there that I got all this attention on me, and I really had to like go through this process of like I'm doing readings, I start putting videos out, and that's actually when that dark night of the soul hits. Is like when I had to make a commitment to spirit that I will every day show up with a horoscope, which I've done since April 10th, 2012. I did a prayer to spirit like if I commit myself every day to the light work, will you just bring me what I need to get through this life to do that work? Because I was struggling with like jobs and money and just like getting through, and I was in the Hollywood life and doing reality shows and trying to stay on top, and it just wasn't me energetically. So I went on a hike and I went under this waterfall and I really committed to that process. And that's what began the greatest journey that's continued on. And that dark night of the soul for me was very much the disassociation with reality. It felt like I wasn't here while being here, body disassociation. And as a Leo, that's very difficult. We like to love, we like to laugh, we like to play. And it almost kind of felt like the universe didn't have that around anywhere. And it really had to force me to also to love myself, even though I thought I did. No, you really have to learn how to love yourself in a moment of a dark night of the soul and truly accept. I would say it's a lot like the movie The Matrix, like it's the waking up through the Matrix feeling, where Neo throws up, right? Although I
Yeah.
wasn't throwing up. But I
Yeah.
did everything from quit every kind of like drug. I went to doing just cleanses and nothing was working. And it
Mm.
really was all that deeper spiritual work of really fully accepting what the universe has to say, fully accepting the universe as it is too. And in many ways, it was like a 2.5 year process for me of like full anxiety, panic attacks, while still doing the work every day, which was really
Mm.
interesting. But it was the best thing that ever happened because it really got me, I would say, fully dialed in and deprogrammed out of this kind of programming we get as children, the programming we get through the schools, the media, everything. So by 2015, it was kind of my okay, I'm battle tested spiritual light worker all the way ready. That's my story, the more true essence one.
Yeah, I can feel it. Like as you're speaking, I get waves of tingles and light coming through my body. And that always happens when you speak, when someone speaks like deep truth. And yeah, it's so true because as you awaken, like the first time when you first awaken, you realize, oh, hold on. I'm not the personality, I'm not the character, I'm not just a human. There's something more to me. I mean, that's just the beginning. Then the like deep, hard work comes, and it's like waves and waves of like dissolving and disintegrating that which you thought you were. Like, I remember going through it myself, and I, for me, it was like depression and sadness.
Mm.
So my mom had been depressed and bipolar, and and then I was carrying it, and I was already a healer. I was already a healer, and I was doing so much work on myself. But there was like this other level and layer that really needed to crack me open even more. And so instead of using my psychic ability to try to find like the root of the past life or the ancestral or what my belief pattern is. For a change, I heard a deep voice inside of me and it said, just sit with it and accept it. So I just went into my body and I could feel like this heaviness of the depression. And instead of like trying to find a way out of it or heal myself out of it, I realized it's not a problem to fix. I just got to be with it. And so, and that's what you were talking about. You were talking about love and you were talking about acceptance. And that's what it really is. When you all of a sudden allow yourself to be with what is, something inside starts to shift and release, and then you never see the world the same again. And then it's like it takes years to like disidentify and clear all of those patterns that we think that we are. And as we dissolve each pattern along the way, the beautiful thing about spiritual awakening is there's like golden nuggets and beautiful light every step of the way, because every time that you don't react or behave from a pattern and a conditioning, it actually dissolves and it releases from you. So you become lighter and freer. And like I can feel that in your energy, David. Like this journey has liberated you.
Very much so. And I'm glad to hear your story because I relate with that very much because I feel like we all like to associate with terms of if it's depression or for me it was panic disorder and anxiety. There's something that happens, and especially I'm an astrologer, so it's the subconscious and the spiritual energies Pisces ruled, right? And so when you're having all this energy coming from the universe, literally through the crown of your head into through your brain, the filtration of all that energy and all that's stuck in the subconscious, and then of course there is generational stuff too, but all of it, it gets to a point where you have to surrender to trying to even use all your tools, because I was hanging on to, at least I know that this is supposed to be happening, my astrology's forcing me to kind of go through this, right? Like I remember that. And I'm
Yeah.
like hanging on like tree branches to that, but that wasn't enough. Like I had to fully receive and accept it and love what is the most like unlovable experience in many ways, which kind of reminds me of like the teachings of Jesus, but I think there's the deeper ones that they've found over the years were to the other healers was you know, it starts on that surface level of like, you know, love the unlovable and love the people who might treat you bad and so forth. And but it goes to that deeper level, I think, of like, this is not what I want to feel in any level at all. The reality, the thoughts, the emotions, there is no kind of place for me to go. And I have to accept and fully love that. And I think that's that deeper level that really, I think, people like Jesus and other healers in the past that we don't know all the info, but I think
Mm.
that that's the core source of what it really is down in that level.
Yeah, you kind of shift from thinking yourself to love, where you're like, okay, I've got to love myself, and it's like very much in the surface level of the mind, and then it drops in the moment where you allow yourself to be with whatever arises in the present moment, no matter how dark or heavy or intense it is, you're just with it. That then becomes like an energetic embodiment, and that love, I mean, we can't really describe it in words because it's each person has the master, has the light inside of them that will actually take them through this and guide them. There's like this inner voice that says, keep going. I know it's uncomfortable, but just stay with it. Breathe through it. The light that you are is going to burn and dissolve all of this. So accept it and be with it, and it goes. And yeah, it's amazing. The
And that's really
liberation.
the ego death, but I think the ego is the one that's telling you how bad it is, right? Because the ego only is satisfied off what it wants. So, you know, if you think about it, that ego death is really the problem is the ego saying, I don't like this. This doesn't feel good. I don't want to go through this. That's not your soul. So that's really kind of the moment the soul reminds the ego that, you know, this is who we are. This is not who we are. So there's also that element too. And I think that that's kind of an interesting moment because you leave those, they still pop up, dark nights of the soul, in different ways. There's right when you think that you've mastered it all, ha ha ha, something
Yeah.
is coming. But it's like that whole moment of when you come out of them, it's like you're no longer maybe so hyper focused on every situation and what's going to be next and all that. You really are just letting the universe show up and responding to it and going through where you're being called to. And that's where all the magic happens the most.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, as an astrologer, it's like, that's what I help people understand is like, hey, like, you're either focusing on the awareness of where the universe is and being guided the same way that signs guide us is ironically signs, right? Astrology, but the planets are doing it all the time. The lunation cycles, these solar eclipses, all this stuff, but it's whether or not you're open to being guided by where spirit is calling you. I mean, that's the same thing as what astrology is. And so people might not have to follow astrology. They could be doing it by following where spirit's guiding them all the time. The more that you get into that space, that's where all the magic's going to happen in your life. You know, I think a lot of people get trapped, and I think that's a different thing than a dark night of the soul, is where people
Mhm.
get trapped in their ego and their control of like, this is what I need to be doing, and it has to look like this. And that point, you know, that's a hard trap to be in, but you know, it's pretty easy to get out of it. But there's a lot that you have to let go of that's more material, more physical, and getting really wrapped up in this matrix, you know?
Absolutely. It's like the ego has this pattern in it that says peace exists somewhere out there. We've got to find it. And that is the biggest untruth. It's peace exists right here, only in the present moment. It's always available, but it's underneath that pattern of the ego. And also another one I notice with the ego is that it doesn't believe that we're safe. So it's, yeah, it's always trying to find safety. And in that, it becomes so controlling. Like I watched it even in myself. It would say to me, oh, Natalie, you've got to make another video. Your audience, your community, they need to hear. And I just went, no, that's exactly when I will not do that. And every time I said no, it dissolved more and more. And then what starts to happen is you feel something in your heart, and it's your soul, which is such a high frequency vibration. When you feel inspired, when you feel like, oh, I love this, I want to do it. So every time I'm feeling like the flow of love, that's when I create a video. That's when because that is an output of a frequency of love, and that output brings in more love. Like this is how we change it moment by moment, is like being so aware of that which we're not and just saying no. Like I am not going to take action based on that low frequency. No. I'm going to
Right.
wait. I'm going to pause until I actually feel my soul guiding me.
Yeah, I love that because there really is that ego that's going to come in and it's going to, I'm not safe. For
Mhm.
me on those panic attacks, I didn't trust that I was going to be able to breathe, right? Like, will my
Yeah.
lungs keep going? Or I remember walking in the streets of Hollywood and being
Yeah.
like, how are my legs having me walk across this street? Like, it was like I got to that really deep level where I'm like, being a human is weird, right? Like having to like accept this whole human experience. Like, I'm not actually walking, like things like that, right? But
Yeah.
the whole idea that there is no safety, that's the biggest illusion because we don't control our heartbeat unless okay, maybe we run. That's but you're still not controlling the exact BPM of that.
No.
There is nothing that we are in control of. We're safe. We're held by the universe. This whole universe is being held by the divine. I mean, even with the wobble of the earth right now and the pole shifting and everybody freaking out, it's like it's still what are we gonna do about it, right? Like it's like we're on this earth, it's holding us, it's taking care of us. The air is still around to breathe. I mean, it's like, you know, there's not, of course, we could do things to make things better, but, you know, you first have to get to that level of acceptance. And if the whole world is in panic mode 24/7, I mean, the irony is it's kind of like if you look at nature, it's not panicking. It's
Yeah.
even in
Yeah.
the craziest city, I'll see animals in the middle of the crazy, they're not panicking,
Mm.
you know? So.
what you just said about how the universe holds us and how even in that moment where like you couldn't really feel your legs and your heart and that panic anxiety feeling was so strong. I feel like that is going to help people so much because actually right now I'm teaching a course on Reiki, and some of my students are like, "Oh, I'm feeling anxiety, and no way, I'm not going to sit with
Mm.
it. It's too much for me." But yeah, I feel like what you've just said, and if you've got anything else to say, like just to support them, like you can get through it.
Yeah, I mean, and what I learned, especially because there's anxiety and then there's panic disorder, which is the worst of anxiety because you're now becoming into a full-blown panic attack over having another panic attack. Now it's not no longer about whatever you're sitting in, right? Like at first it was like, oh my gosh, this reality is weird. Or I'm walking on the street and I quit weed and I smell weed. Am I going to get stoned? You know, you have these stupid things, right? Or, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to sit down here and I can't just get up and get out whenever I want. That's like a big anxiety thing. Like I need to know where the door is. This might be uncomfortable and I want to get out, right? And in
Mm,
all those moments, the more you keep doing that, the worse it gets. Because what you're doing now is you're doubling down on betting on that it's going to be worse the next time. And then you start avoiding sitting at a restaurant because if somebody, if you, and this is where it gets really sad is when you have like, oh, my friends are all at this restaurant and they're sitting in a booth. Oh, but I got to sit in the middle between all these people and I won't be able to get out and I might have an anxiety attack and then I'm just not going to go. So you start saying no to love and no to friendship and no, you basically start saying no to what all the gifts of the universe and God are trying to present to you in life. So
yes.
sitting with it, you know, I don't think you could say there's exercises like about your breathing and all that. What it is though is truly going, let me receive this and be surprised. Like what else is there? Like stop thinking about what bad could happen and what's the gift that's trying to be given to me here? Because there's nothing else that it's going to be besides a gift or you freaking out walking out the door, which that's not going to feel great and then go sit in your car and do the same thing that you've done before. Usually when people are not sitting with something, the exit is the same exit.
Yes.
And that's the pattern that just keeps rolling. It might be a different location or whatever, but it's the same routine. And then trust me, as one through went through somebody went through panic disorder, that's the hardest because then it turns into agoraphobia where I became afraid to leave the house
Yeah.
and I sat in a house that I had and did all my horoscopes and did readings and didn't leave the house. That was really difficult.
Yeah. So, wow, that you've had a massive breakthrough, massive shedding of the layers. And the absolute key to it all is because the mind is so powerful. What you actually said was that you did one shift of your mind to say, no, I'm not going to go down this pattern again. I'm actually not going to listen to you. And I'm just going to be with what is and see it as a gift and accept and allow it. And then within that, everything shifted. And that's as simple and as powerful it is. And it's true because we can say, go and do this breath work or um go and be in nature. And all of that does help because that like calms the nervous system. But in absolute truth, it could spiritual bypass.
Yeah.
You could keep going and trying to find something else which makes you feel good for a little bit, but that heaviness, that darkness will still be inside. So the way through it, it really is to be with the feeling, feel it in your body, just be with it, accept it. Accept what your mind is bringing up to the surface, but stop believing in it. And that will
Right.
make a huge pivot and a shift in the whole frequency. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing so deeply with us.
Yeah, the last thing I'll share about it is it's very highly connected with Neptune, the planet, believe it or not.
Tell me more.
Because Neptune, it's the second farthest planet out, and it's very lonely out there. You could see the sun, but it's very far away. And so it's the outpost to the fortress, which is where the sun is, right? So it's the outpost that's out there listening and feeling what's out there in the universe. That's why it looks like an antenna, the glyph of Neptune, ironically. It's like our antenna, right? So it's out there, but it gets lonely. And it also looks like this giant water, right? Planet. Like it looks like an ocean, but it's not. It's gas.
Whoa.
Right. So it's the illusion that, oh, that looks like I could just go get my trunks on and go swim in that beautiful place. You would just, that would be poisonous. You'd fry or whatever. I don't know. I don't know that, but it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
So with Neptune, whether you're going through Neptune transits or your Neptune's being hit, what you learn through it is like we all have, I look at our emotions like crayons. We have the
Mm.
crayons, like the 64 Crayola set. Like we have the colors we liked as kids to use, right? When Neptune comes around, it's like, well, you're going to use all 64. And we're going to be using these colors that you didn't use much, right? There was always those like kind of lighter crayons or even like the white crayon, like who used that? No, like no, many people didn't, right? And when we go through these things, it's like I've never felt this feeling before. So one of the worst panic attacks I had, and part of the getting through it was like I woke up, had a panic attack, and I got in my truck and I thought I was dying. So on my way to the emergency room, I'm like hunched over my wheel of my truck, going like 80 miles an hour with my exhaust, and I'm like, I'm dying. I ran into the ER and just like there's other people there, people in wheelchairs, everything. I don't even think about them. I'm just like, I am dying. And then they finally like just like threw me in and they put me like on a gurney or whatever. And I'm like, I feel like I'm being poisoned because it was that intense, the dark feeling. It was like 1 minute later, they put an IV in me, and I'm like, did you put on like the depoisoning medicine or something? And he's like, I just gave you a milligram of Ativan. And I went, the feeling's gone. He's like, yeah, you're suffering deeply with anxiety and panic disorder. You need to go see somebody. And so it was like, you can turn those feelings that you think are poisonous,
Mm-hmm.
and then the ingredient to fix it is what you think is. I made up in my head. Like, is there like depoisoning or something? Because it felt like what I would perceive as what being poisoned would feel like. Because when you get those really intense, fearful feelings in your stomach and stuff,
Yeah.
it hit that, and then like the panic that I thought I was actually dying or like having a heart attack or something like that. You start creating scenarios, and that's what Neptune does, right? It starts,
Yeah.
the fantasy can go really dark or it could go really light. The only way that we get to light fantasy is actually understanding our dark fantasies that we create, right? The ones where we get afraid, we get scared. And it's usually also that there's the loneliness because you haven't accepted the love of the universe fully at that moment. You're trying to find it another way, or maybe you're trying to hope for. I remember at that time I was like, how am I going to go on a date if I'm having panic attacks? So I
Mm.
put on my dating profile back then. This is like 2013, 2014, 2015. Like, I have panic disorders, so you would probably have to come on to my place and have a date like that. Didn't get many takers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, I think that to help people, it's like watch your feelings because you want the colors of the feelings that you always feel, but there's so many other feelings and they're mixed with other colors. And you have to learn to accept those and start accepting that there's so many feelings, there's so many different frequencies of feelings. Then you could actually start to feel more fully comfortable and not having the discomfort rule your life. And all the discomfort is I only want these emotions to be working. And it's usually very binary, this or this one, and this and that one. It's like it's not deep at all. It's very surface. I just want to feel this and I'll be happy. I just want money in my account, I'll be happy. I just want a relationship, I'll be happy. I'll just want this. As everything is coming in our life, there's always something going. And at the end of the day, we all leave with everything that we hold on to, and it's whether or not you're going to truly have regret, which I think the biggest regret would be thinking that like, oh, I didn't accept or I didn't love all these things in my life that were possible. And so that's where I think people will have to shift because this is a new kind of paradigm this last century of people having such extreme anxieties and so forth.
Absolutely. And I love the analogy of the colors because so colors are different frequency waves. And why it's so weird, we got this programming that we only like this color and don't like that color. But actually, if we were to look at colors and just accept all of them, then it's a frequency wave that's coming through, which is energy in motion. It moves through. And what I understand from my experience is that when you allow an emotion to move through you without attaching to a high one or running away from an uncomfortable one, it can move through in 90 seconds. So then it moves through. And also, the beautiful thing is, we're human. Like, you get to be human, you get to feel emotions. That's what makes this whole human experience the whole rainbow of colors. So, yeah, I love that. And then about Neptune, I would love to know, like, where is Neptune with regards to what's going on right now on Earth? Because, yeah, people are feeling alone, and yeah, there's some intense energies on the Earth right now.
Yeah, actually 2026 is about Neptune. It just actually just days ago just ingressed into Aries to fully stay in there, and it was in Pisces since 2011, where Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, Poseidon. And what's interesting is it just went into Aries. The last time it happened was back in 1861, and the day that it happened was the day the Civil War started,
Oh, wow.
right?
Okay.
So what happens in Neptune and Pisces, which we've been through, is great spiritual awakenings. But then that whole undercurrent that we just talked about, dark night of the soul, everything, that's what's really been happening. But also was interesting the last time it was around, it's 165 years around the sun, Neptune. So we get it every 165 years, but in our lifetimes, we're only going to be with it in its home sign once, and we just lived through that. And so what's interesting though is it was the beginning of the telegraph the last time that it was at the place where it's shifting as it is right now. And so like the election of 1860, which is actually what caused the Civil War, it was because people found out the results so fast. In 1859, that was where we had a big solar flare, the Carrington event, and it knocked out those telegraphs, right? But then they restored it pretty quick in the 1860 election. Everybody's tapping away, and but Lincoln won, and it spread so quick in the newspapers, and everybody has anxiety, and everybody's trying to separate. The other thing that Neptune does is it does separation, unconscious and conscious. That's why it's two fish. There's a fish in the water. If you were to imagine it, you don't see it. You just see the revolution of the fishes. But one is above and one is below.
Yeah.
Also, it rules the feet. So if you think about it, the bottoms of our feet, that's the only part of our body that's not seeing the awareness on the bottom, right? And that's why if you notice if people get like cleanses on their feet, right? And you see all the stuff
Mm.
that comes out of the bottom of people's feet,
Yeah.
a lot of the toxins and so forth, like that's what Pisces or Neptune represents. So just as much as we're becoming aware, there's always you have to have unconsciousness to have consciousness. So like being unconscious is actually a gift because it's the only thing that can lead you to becoming aware or conscious of something. So you can't, it also teaches you to learn compassion because you have to be compassionate with yourself. Like I was maybe unconscious of this. Okay, well, I am now, so be easy on yourself. It's like you don't want to be back to seventh grade and like beating yourself up because you tripped next to the hot chick that you walked by at the lockers. I mean, like, you know what I mean? You can sit around and beat yourself up your whole life about that or move on and laugh it off and become aware of like, okay, maybe I'll pay a little bit more attention, but if I fall again, it's no big deal. Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe I can turn that into a comedy bit. I don't know, but it's a big deal because we have Saturn that's about to conjunct Neptune on February 20th. And so the last Saturn Neptune conjunction in this exact spot, which is zero Aries, which is the beginning of the whole zodiac, was all the way back in 44,361 BC. So
Wow.
over 6,000 years ago. So,
What does this mean for humanity? Like what kind of
uh,
energies does this bring us?
so with Neptune, it's a dissolver. It's trying to, it doesn't really want to be in the reality. It's the outpost, right? It's way out there.
Mm,
So it's much more attuned to the spiritual nature of things and to when you're really far away energetically, then that's where you can create kind of positive fantasies and also crazy ones, right? But then
mm,
Saturn's all about controlling the understanding, timing, the physical reality, how it's structured. So when you get these two together, it's this alchemy mix of like, we need to dilute the structure while at the same time we need to not make sure that we're diluting it to going crazy, right?
interesting.
I mean, there's a lot of other ways where dreams can become real and true too. Or
Mm,
where, the karma that we're setting now is very important to pay attention to in the choices we make in our life to make sure that we're not just going to structure our lives based off, creating a dharma that's going to create bad karma in our life. Both planets are very much dealing with karma in ways. But the big news is that back in 4361 BC is the beginning of like prehistory, where we, as historians, started finding like the beginnings of like where the tribes of humans were and where they decided to migrate and which ones did and which ones didn't, which ones stayed in their area and not. So it's almost kind of like it was like, hey, everyone, get out, enjoy this earth, see what you do, and which tribes and which people did and didn't. So it's the
mm.
defining moment of history of humanity, really, that we actually can kind of the first part of it. So it's like we're getting this whole new, I don't want to call it a reset, but the next level of what humanity is and the evolution of what it is. And I think we're all like in this place where the structure of what humanity is, and then the Neptune fog and it's like what's our next step? We usually are like so hyper focused on we know exactly where the next step is as humanity. Well, we do not right now, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
The last time we had Saturn and Neptune, they're about every 34, 36 years, was back in 1989 in June, and it was in Capricorn.
Mm.
So it's been that long since Saturn and Neptune came together. It's also important to note that since 2020, we've been in what's called conjunctional astrology, meaning we've had these major, massive conjunctions where one planet meets with another. And so it has to be two planets together or more. And we've been just seeing back to back every year. 2020 was massive conjunctions Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, if people remember that, but also Pluto and Jupiter. So, that was three huge conjunctions, and it's been every year, and this is the last one.
Oh.
So, if you take the last 6 years, the most extreme, the last time we saw this much conjunctional astrology was back in 1345. It was being predicted by an astrologer who told the Pope and warned him of the Black Death. And in 1347, we saw those big conjunctions happen, and it became the Black Death that happened. So, it changed the world forever, too. Um, so we're at the tail end now, and I think this has been the biggest compression of like time. I mean, if Terrence McKenna were still here, is this his time wave zero mixed with the Mayan calendar of 2012, and like we also switched in the middle of the Katuns halfway through the Batoon we've been through during this period. Like there's a lot that's all connected to like this whole new evolution of humanity, and this is really now us entering the doorway of that. I think we've been in the lobby since 2012.
Mm.
2020 was like the lobby's getting pretty real. 2026 is the door opening. Like what's in this place? What is this,
I love this. Okay, so 2026 feels like the door opening. How I like sense and like channeling and feeling it is that we've got it's like we're in a birthing canal and we've been shedding so many layers and but we're going through a massive death and rebirth and it feels like we're still within like the contractions of the birth. um yeah, and we're still shedding, but it feels different. It feels like because now we're going into so like the Chinese New Year, it's the year of the horse, it's the fire horse. And
Yes.
so it brings like momentum, like fire is burn what's not good and right and in flow and actually activate and bring manifest and create. That's like the two energies of the fire. And then the horse is like embody it and move. And it really feels like we're moving quite fast. So what is your feeling about as we move through 2026, like with the doors opening astrologically, what are you kind of seeing in the charts and sensing spiritually? Maybe there's also some specific dates throughout 2026. If you could just do a beautiful overview for us.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
yeah.
I'll tag first with that whole shift Chinese wise. So in the great race for the emperor, right? The horse is in the middle, right? The rat's first, the pig's last. The horse might have a lot of energy and speed, but it tramples over things and it loses its energy. And that's why it didn't win the race, right? So the only two that are really like revered for winning the race is the rat and the ox because they do it together and they work together as a team, right? The rat uses his brains and his smarts, and the ox uses his really strong energy and also the ability to want to be friends to figure out how to win a race. No other animal does that. So the farther you go down, after you are always in a year of rat, and then that was 2020, 2021 is ox. Now every year it's always like, yeah, there's some positives, but you have to focus on the negatives because they're all the not the winners. They're the ones who couldn't figure out how to win the great emperor's race, right? And so
Mm.
I know a lot of people are going to want to rush in the astrology, which is different. The way that Chinese astrology works and the way that tropical or Vedic astrology works is completely different. I mean, there is some similarities in certain ways, but it's a completely different animal. Ironically, though, there's a lot about that kind of same feeling of all this Aries, and we're moving from air and fire, or from earth and water to air and fire, right? So all these outer planets over these last couple of years, 2026 being the year where we see Neptune, of course, just went into Aries just days ago. Now we're coming into Uranus to Gemini, and that's going to click with Pluto that's been in Aquarius since 2023, but it didn't come officially there till 2024. But they're all going to be in perfect harmony by July this year. By July 20th, we're going to see, including with Jupiter, all outer planets, and that's never been seen. You could go back 26,000 years in astrology charts, and we've never seen all outer planets all exactly looking at each other from harmonious spaces. But we're also adding Jupiter to it. So yeah, we're going into this completely new world, whether we like it or not. And I think part of that is connected to this idea back in 1964 when we had the Pluto and Uranus conjunction. And those two planets, they're outer planets. So they take a long time to kind of, if you think of the lunation cycle, it's like a new moon. But it's taken all the way to 2025 and then especially 26 and 27 for them to make a trine. So we're going to see Pluto and Uranus down to trine. But it's so weird that all the people that wanted freedom and the spiritual movement now, it's all happening now in Gemini and Aquarius, which is technology, computers. And so like we're seeing that everywhere and people are freaking out. But ironically, that's like our doorway in, which is so weird.
Mm.
Right? So like part of this whole new world is like, what is there another species we're creating? Or are we about to find out the origins of our humanity, which would also kind of like be the mind blow of the 60s? Like, oh, we're these deep spiritual hippies. No, we're actually from another planet or something like that, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or we are AI ourselves. I'm not saying I know the answer, but the whole part of this year is like, you can go fast into things. And now we're moving into air and fire, which is not earthly and grounded at all. It's going to be loud. It's going to feel like back in the 1800s when the neighbor was popping guns off and doing what nobody's calling the police anymore about how loud things are going to get in this decade.
Mm.
Nobody's going to be there for you in the system anymore to call and, hey, this, I need this from the system. No, we got to create our own just local systems is what's coming,
I love that.
which I think a lot of people are going to be happier with, right? But there is also the realness of this idea like where do you get medicine, antibiotics from 99% from China? That's not going to be happening anymore. Like
Mm,
these kind of systems are collapsing with all of what's happening in the astrology, and it's forcing humanity to really, one, kind of get back to what humanity is, but with all this new, random, wild, and technological aspect, which technology's always been with us. If you just look at all the old ancient depictions, I mean, they're in spaceships. They're using stuff that we can't figure out now to make pyramids.
yeah.
So it's always with us in some sort of way. And I think that the other big thing about this year is like just individually, like us allowing the space of like more definitions of what spirituality is. It's not this one defined thing. With Neptune and Aries, and then of course Pluto and Aquarius, and then Uranus and Gemini, it's asking for us to add more to the definitions of what spirituality is. To be, if we're going to be truly inclusive, we have to be inclusive to all these other forms of how we're doing spirituality. It's not just very one size fits all and only through this one narrow place. It's a wide universe, and that's what we're going to really be shocked with is about our origins, where we come from, and what else is out there. And I think that'll shift humanity's consciousness quite a lot, and also other planets that we find, things that are in our system we didn't know about. Like, of course, we've had interstellar comments lately. We've had all these new things that have just already been mind blowing to watch. And that's just the preview. Like, that's not even close to what's coming. So I think it's a great moment, but I think for people attached to systems and grounding the earth and the water and where they feel safe,
Mm.
especially if you're like, oh, the government's what protects me. Actually, nobody's really at the helm. Is kind of like what 2026 is going to realize. When you call up a business now that used to take care of you and all that, I don't know. I don't know who to talk to or blah, 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 right? Like nobody's at the helm of these systems anymore. Or it's an AI bot that's there, right? So I think it's going to be a good time for people to realize, hey, anything is really truly possible now. The more that you focus on that and not trying to live, I think that people live kind of in their own little book of like, this is how life is supposed to look, right? It's
Mm.
like that unwritten book that people live by and the rules and so forth. That's going away. And it's already kind of been away. It's been eroding for a long time. So for those to do their greatest work and their greatest spiritual work, it's like, keep your moral and your ethic book, which that one we know is the code spiritually that you feel. It's not even a written one. You just are a good person. You don't do these things. You don't treat people bad, blah, blah, blah. But every other rule is like, what do you want to do? You know? And I think that's going to be what's weird for people. What do I do when I'm not put in the box because I'm used to the box that's telling me what to do? That makes sense?
Totally. Like that's going to be very uncomfortable for many people, but
Yeah.
for others, it's going to be all of a sudden like you've just been given your life back. You're absolutely free. You're sovereign. You can trust in your soul, trust in the universe, this beautiful consciousness, this light that is organizing everything so perfectly. It's in divine perfection. So why are we've been swimming upstream and trying to control, and it feels like this year is going to be like, oh, let go of the control. You don't know exactly what's going to come, but maybe you can get comfortable in the unknown. Like that's going to open up.
Yes. That's the only place to get comfortable is in the unknown. Especially Pluto and Aquarius, right? That's always a 248-year transit. So America's having its 250th birthday this year, right? 1776, we're in 2026. We already had our Pluto return. But the idea of Pluto, especially in Aquarius, is Aquarius rules the skies. It rules lightning, it rules weather, it rules unpredictability, it rules humanity, the idea of it, rules how we help, how we solve complex problems. So, weather is going to be way different, but also unpredictable. And
Mm.
everything's going to have an unpredictable part of it. And I think that's where Pluto's teaching us to make that transformation is to receive the unpredictable, to live in the excitement of that, and to see that's where humanity does its greatest. Humanity is nothing but just on a hamster wheel in a system with everything predictable in how it runs, right? Like the problem is that we all don't want to end up in Pink Floyd The Wall, yet we all do when we follow the system of how it's supposed to be, and then we're just basically into the meat churner, and they're just okay from school all the way out, right? And so
Yeah.
this is us breaking not a generational thing, but a complete humanity issue. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to come up is religion,
Mm.
because that was what the Civil War was actually really deeply about with slaves and everything in America, because it was believed in the South like that it was godly to have slaves because it's in the Bible. And if you read all the journals of all the Confederates and all the generals like General Lee, it was all about his duty to Jesus to protect the slaves because they lived a better life being slaves under that Christian Southern life. So a lot of people don't study that history, and then looking at the North and how Abraham Lincoln was an abolitionist and really didn't have a religious look, right? So you can't pin him down to being part of one religion or one form of Christianity. And so it's kind of this interesting thing where it's like, where are religions causing harm, right? It brings up Neptune. The last time we saw it in Aries with Pluto in Aquarius was when the Spanish took over Mexico, when they took over the Incas, when they took over the whole Aztec Empire and the Incan Empire, right? And made it Mexico and turned everybody into Christians, right? Catholics. But the same energy is happening right now that just is clicking. And when King Henry VIII left the Catholic Church and started the Church of England and did the schism and allowed the people and himself as a king, right, to say, hey, we're sovereign. We're not We're not obliged to do what the Pope says. So there's going to be a lot of the tension being around religion and religious holy war stuff. All that has not been cleared out.
Mm. Yeah. It needs to be cleared.
Yeah.
It needs to come up to the surface and be released from our earth, from our human consciousness. And it's so true because the mind is so programmed to go, oh, look at the past, predict the future based on it. Like that's what it does. So that means we would always just stay on this linear, slow moving process of like keeping things the way they are. But so many people are going, no ways, I'm not doing that. I'm going to, instead of looking back and deciding what the future is, I'm going to expand my mind and feel and sense bigger and wider and realize the potential that we've got. We are the creators, we are consciousness, we are the light, we can create anything. So how far out can we expand our mind rather than keeping it narrow focused and going small like this? And just let in new ideas. But we have to, in order for this to happen, we have to be okay to be in the unknown because it's in the unknown that new ideas are birthed, that fresh new light and energy comes through. So that's the feeling I'm getting about 2026 is it's just like quantum leaping, really expansive, but very much like not a foundation, not like we're not always going to feel safe and held and secure, but that's okay. We're going to get more comfortable with that. And let's get more comfortable with that. Let's know and trust that there's something deeper here that is supporting us always. It is
Mhm.
the most infinite light and love, and it is like if you look at the physical body, You eat some food, you digest, you get some of the food goes to heal the cells, some of it goes to give you energy, some of it eliminates out of the body. It's so intelligent. Like, what have we been thinking that we need to control every little aspect? If we can surrender and let go and free fall and trust the universe because it is so intelligent, it knows what it's doing, we're going to have such a light-filled, more expansive, enjoyable experience. And hey, we're here to be human and enjoy the ride, not just to take it so seriously and struggle through it. Like, we're gonna change this world because we're gonna stop coming in the cycle of like having to learn through the dark and the light. We're gonna break through it and go into the golden ages, and we're gonna be able to experience life in such new ways, like levitating, speaking through our mind, connecting through our hearts, like living from our hearts. Like this is coming, and we have to go through
It is.
all of this to get there.
Yeah, so glad that you brought up what like that real big stuff that's on the horizon here, that this is the door to that horizon because I've always had these visions seeing this period, this door opening like in the next year or two, like millions of people. It's like Burning Man was kind of like a test ground, but like more, this is like way more evolved and like this way of like humanity coming together and frequency and sound and honoring. There is no more, oh, I'm the cool person who's on the stage and you're the audience. That whole life is ending.
Yeah,
Like that I'm an elite person and you're not, that's ending,
yeah,
right? Like so the structure of the hierarchy in humanity is ending, right? And reminding us that we're all human after all, not to be all Daft Punk, but we're all human after all. But the other thing too is that like there is not a known definition of what it's going to look like. We're going to be on that horse as a good example, thinking we're hitting the Holy Grail like Sir Lancelot, but he doesn't get it, right? Like it's so funny. It's his son because Lancelot was, of course, with Guinevere and cheating and not telling his friend King Arthur that there is a spiritual test to get the Holy Grail in many ways. Not to get too Camelot on you, but there is a lesson there. Is like you might be all excited and be moving through, but if you lose that spiritual touch, because when God kind of takes the restrictors off here, right? Like it's really easy to just start putting your hand in the cookie jar. It's really easy to just go, well, and make excuses, especially Neptune and Aries can become delusional. The ego could become fully delusional and actually think it's spiritually doing something correct that it's not. So we have to keep our ego on the highest check of all time now because it doesn't have a leash anymore. That's what comes
wow.
with this, if that makes sense, right? Like it is that, right? So but I think that's where you're going to see the holy war kind of stuff need to be a big part of this whole process. I think of it like you could sit and watch this movie that repeats all the time through astrology and all that, or you can be a light worker and somebody here who's, whether you're outside the theater, but we've got the door now cracked open, and hey, come outside. Like, you want to keep watching this? And I think a lot of us are going to be there kind of sitting in chairs next to people, even though we know we could be out there doing it, but to help people go, hey, you don't have to sit and watch this movie. You don't have to. And that's why we came down here. We didn't come down here to be the ones that just bails on everybody and then goes, all right, I'm outside having a blast. It's kind of like, I know that's there. I think that 2026 for people doing the work right now, like you could do as best as you can. I think we're gonna have to team up with others, just like in the Matrix. You don't go in the Matrix alone. You gotta have a team in case agents show up, or in order to, extract out of that and don't get sucked into the movie, right? Like, But I think it's gonna be beautiful in the sense that if you're in denial, you won't be. If you're looking for that spark still, and maybe you've given up on spirituality or any of these really more etheric energies, because what we're moving towards is true like etheric energy and moving into the ether that we can access the same way we access, I don't know, anything in technology today so quick or information. And so we're really becoming the conduit, like the magician card. I love it because it's the magician wand. That's as humans, we're the conduit from the divine down here. We are that conduit. We are that connector. And we forget that. And that's when you understand that you can make things happen.
Absolutely. The whole energy has just gone lighter from what you've said. I can feel anyone who watches the and connects, you'll feel this like empowerment and light and remembrance. That's what it is. It's remembrance of, hold on. I am the infinite light. I'm consciousness and the creator, experiencing myself as a human. Oh, this is cool. What what's coming, and let me just be open and flow with it and remember that I am the light and I can shine and be who I am, and we can support each other like so many more people coming together. And yeah, it's true. We could just go. I mean, I love meditating, so I could easily just go and sit and meditate, but I keep getting the strong feeling of like, share everything that you're directly experiencing through meditation with others, because it's going to ignite the memory and the knowing that's already inside of them. And then together, you're all making such a massive impact and change, and you're going through the shift together, and it's exciting.
Yeah, and I think that's so important that you're saying that because again, there's so much programming of what it's supposed to look like, even with that. This is where the script's being written, meaning that it's unwritten in many ways. So what does come through is important instead of going, well, it's supposed to look like this. Even in the spiritual community or even as all that, like, no, this is where, when you're honest, it's every 84 years. So of course that idea of the fourth turning for America, because every time it returns, we're in a big war, right? Like first we were 1776, Uranus Gemini, right? Then up Civil War, and then up World War II, and then now, right? But Uranus and Gemini is where who's doing the innovative things in humanity? Who, right? So it's kind of weird. Even if you were in the wrong place during World War II, whoever was doing the most innovative things got protected and saved and even extracted out of countries and made citizens or whatever. You got to trust that no matter what's happening, as long as you're the innovator, the one that's doing things different, that's not doing the herd kind of mentality, it doesn't matter where you are. You might end up in some other place that's where you're supposed to be. And that means we're always safe no matter what. Even if you think I'm in the worst place. Well, guess what? Because you're doing that work, you're putting that energy out there, you're creating this innovative energy. That's where people are extracted, right? That's where every country was like, who's the smartest of that? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? We need them. So
Absolutely.
that's a common thing that happens with Uranus and Gemini if you look at it in history too.
It's so fascinating. I can really feel the innovative energy. It just did something in my own mind. It's like where the ego wants to kind of have hold of what could be coming. No, let's stop predicting and let's start being present. Let's start really just being what is. Because even as you share the astrology, it's you can give some ideas, but still there's so much movement within it. There's so much
Yeah.
creativity within it. Yeah,
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that have been cleared out of our lives. Coming into this year, it's whatever has to be cleared out. You're not having to do anything. It's just clearing itself out.
yeah,
So, even though it might seem like to give you the dates, the first part of this year that we're in is what's being kicked out is being kicked out for a reason without you even doing anything. Right? So this is not a time, and this is not a time of feeling like I need to be in control and direct everything. No, it's just like, okay, the universe, this is choosing to fall out of my life, right? It's actually making you lighter to ascend higher. That's what's happening. That's what
exactly.
Uranus and Aquarius is, and the solar eclipse that we have on February 17th, and then the 3 days later, Saturn Neptune conjunction. Like by that period, it's like just surrender to whatever was supposed to be taking you on this random new direction. That was what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's like the innovation of the universe to kind of get us into being the more innovative self and to be able to connect with the things that we have to in the future. And I think you're right. The presence of the present moment is going to be key because then that's where Neptune Aries, you can learn. Neptune's a passive planet, meaning that we don't define ourselves through Neptune.
Mm.
It's some, and that's what I've been seeing a lot of in the astrology community lately. Like people are like, oh, this is your time to go get what your soul wants. It's kind of like, well, that sounds like the ego. Neptune and Aries is this my soul's energy and the sensitive qualities of Neptune, right? It's like the soul presence energy. Does this I do I identify with this energy? Yep. Okay. No. All right. That's it. It's very simple. Aries is very yes or no, very simple. Just like this is me or not spiritually, though now, right? Like this is my soul's energy that vibes. If it's in the middle and you're unsure, well, then take a little break.
Mm.
Back away.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not seeing it yet. And maybe just put it on the side for a second and keep moving forward. If it's supposed to be,
Mm.
it is. If it's not, then you don't have to have the excuses anymore to say I have to go through this thing because I have to,
Mm.
right? Because that's usually a trap. That's usually a past life trap too. Like, yeah, I have to do this. I have to do this thing. This is the right thing to do. I need it, and that's like the ego trying to make it feel good before going into the trap, right? So I think that this is us avoiding our own past life traps and just traps that are going to be all over the place of like trying to keep you in those loops and keep you in the hamster wheel. And with all those tests they've done on hamsters, it's always a button, like you want more cocaine? Oh, and even when they take away that and they do other things, they do the same. Like stop being that, oh, I need this to show up in order for me to feel okay. And I'll just sit in my hamster cage and I'll be
Mm.
on the wheel and I'll drink my water and just, no, that door's open. And I know that's scary to walk out that door, especially when it's not defined. It's a little bit like Toy Story. Like, it's like, okay, like what? We're all like alive toys and they don't want us anymore. Like, where are we going?
I love that. Yeah.
So, but it's like, well, it's the adventure of that. There's an adventure. If you think about it, life's an adventure. We've never really gotten most of humanity got a real adventure. We did not. We got it all preset. We were like we lived in Disneyland where it's like all pre-done and the ride's already made and this is what you do and that's what you do and you can be creative in the line and I made this or I made that. No, this is us leaving Disneyland,
Yes.
right?
I
Like
love
there's
it.
other things out there.
Yeah.
And the
Let's go.
characters that we have to like, do we have to like just those characters? Like, there's other things out there, you know?
Yeah. Let's go out there. Let's
Right.
stop watching the movie and let's all get up and go out because it's bright, beautiful, sunshiny day out there. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that, we have the North Node moving into Aquarius. It's been in Pisces. We see that halfway through this year finally shift. And Pluto's in Aquarius. So North Node Pluto conjunctions, those are pretty intense.
Mm.
Um, because what it's going to be really focused on now is like getting to the roots of like this extreme transformation of humanity. So really to me it's like the first part of the year is really clearing out without you doing the work, meaning like it should be surprising like how is this just not happening anymore? How is this not working anymore?
Mm.
How is this just wanting to just evacuate like emergency exit out? Okay, let it be. And then we start experimenting with this wherever we kind of end up. But by the time we get to the summer, especially after the solstice, especially coming into July, August, that is going to be a period of this whole new idea of like what humanity could be starting to surface and in your own life, and you really playing with this new vibe. And I feel that we're going to get a good period of that. And then the fall will be like really reflecting on the first versions of what that looks like and like making the edits as we come into the winter. And then 2027 is welcome to that new world fully, you know? And that's exciting. I mean, honestly, if you've been doing the spiritual work, it's exciting. If you haven't, that's why a lot of us light workers that stayed on this path and didn't give up are here. We're going to be, I've always had the vision like we're like pulling people off the boats.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
okay, don't worry, keep
Yeah.
coming, you know, and we're going to be busy with that, but we can't change somebody's mind. And it's not about trying to change anybody's mind. It's really just about being the presence of that love and that energy. And also embodying the energy is just by showing people to be a way shower of just like, hey, this is possible. Without sometimes you don't even have to say it. Just hey, look at it, right? They see it. Like, oh, you know what? I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. Staying in that game,
Yeah.
you
People
know.
feel it. They feel it because it's a high frequency and they're touched by it and it makes a difference. And then something will shift and open in their mind and so not everyone needs to take action and do something, but also just like keep doing the inner work. Keep dissolving that which you're not to be and live in that which you are. And that vibration that you are, it's like before you are the light with clouds, so many clouds. Then you do the work, those clouds disappear, and your light shines so bright and it touches others and it makes a difference in this world. So some people will feel called to take action and do things and help others, and others will be in stillness, be in the light, and just bring that essence and that energy into the world. And that is enough. So each person will play their part and it'll be in divine perfection. So to trust into that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the illusion is the biggest illusion for humanity and for people is revolutions. This
Mm,
isn't a revolution. This is a naturally gifted thing for humanity to just already have access to
yeah.
say, I'm not in that game. There's nothing to go up against in a war. The
Yeah.
French Revolution happened with Pluto and Aquarius, right? It failed. Bunch of people died. It ended up having Napoleon at the end,
Mm,
right? Like Civil War was a revolution, right? It was a revolution. We're breaking away and we are going to do it our way. And we are so divinely inspired. If you see all the God text around the Civil War for the South, it's insane, right? That their God chose the Confederacy and to go back to the Confederate, way of doing things. And you're going to see people really get lost in this idea of like that we have to go through some big revolution, like and revelation at the same time spiritually. And no, there is no revolutionary war that needs to be fought right now for this. It's us just creating this system that really just it doesn't harm anybody. It doesn't, nobody's trying to mess with it. And that's how you know you'll be in the right place. If you're getting caught up right now, that's what they're gonna do is the people, I know a lot of people are afraid of like the future world, right? They're like, I'm seeing this being set up. I'm seeing that being set up, whatever, right? In every way. And I know all of them. So, but they're all failing behind the scenes based off the astrology, meaning like they're going, this isn't working, go to the next file. That one's not working, go to the next one. So it becomes desperation, right? And the desperation is going to be like, hit them where it's the most. They're religious because you've been already seeing that kind of playing out. And that's where they're gonna, and then it's for a revolution for that religion, or it's a revolution for that, and separating these ideas, whether it's through religion. I don't think we're gonna see the race thing as much. It's gonna be religious,
okay.
and then that's where it gets Like we didn't come down here to say this is the only one religion and this is the only one way to God. Like, that's not why we're here, but that's what you're gonna see is behind everything. And we're
Mm.
kind of starting to slowly see that, but
Yeah, yeah. And within that, it's going to help people to remember the oneness. Like we
yeah,
are, there's one source, and we are that one essence. And yes, we're having separate experiences for sure. It feels really real being in the body and experiencing yourself as you are. But deep beneath it, there is only one source, and we all stem from it. We all come from it. We're all sparks of light from that one source. So as this bubbles up with religion, its polarity, so separation, the opposite of separation is oneness, will be equally shining and showing itself. So it's going to be interesting to remember that and keep coming back into the heart, because we have one heart. We got two eyes,
right.
two nostrils, two lips, two ears, two hands, and one heart. And so, yeah, I can feel a deep oneness and remembrance happening in our world. And yeah, and also everyone who's here right now watching and being with me and David, we'd love to hear from you. David
Yeah.
and I would love to know, yeah, what are you sensing about 2026? How are you feeling right now? What's coming up for you? What are you dissolving? We're here together. We're here to be together in community and in oneness and support one another. So yeah, thank you everyone in this community, and David, thank you so much. If there's any last things you'd like to share, you're welcome to.
Oh, well, I agree. And it's New Living Expo. It's a new living world that we're in. I will say that if you think about the ancient places that we have left, right? The reason why the pyramids are still there wasn't based off just kind of like this one religion that's forced upon everybody, where you're seeing the things that we think are that ancient and they just are temples that are being fought over that are about being, oh, once this one gets destroyed, then another. Like that's not, even when you see nations come into 500 years ago, come into the Incas and stuff, it's like they were only there for gold, for the women, for this or for that, for some of the, we know that they took a lot of the spiritual stuff, but if you think about this, the ley lines and where all these grid work energies are around the planet, the spiritual ones they never mess with because they were never connected under this guise of a religion. So I think what we're going to see is people who are really big grid workers, because I know there's tons of people who grid here, and we all have our specialty. Everybody's got to show up like full blown. Like if you're a grid worker with all this energy, this is going to be like the planets are the most harmonious for connecting these grids across the planet and interdimensionally. And I think we're waking up to kind of the superposition self of how to enter into the multi dimensions of our own self. Like, and I think that'll be cooler than any Aya trip you've ever been on. Even though I always thought my LSD trips were crazier, but you know, but like, it's like, whoa, that's accessible. Like that's where we could really still be holding the energy right now and creating spaces that's like, oh, everybody's out there worried about that and lost in the boob tube and the ending of the phone and your neck doing this because what you're doing is you're doing the old like, okay, I'm bowing myself, right? So everybody all day is just doing that. It's just like for so many years now. Like get off your phones. This is where I think events should have just like everybody put their phone in a Faraday bag at the beginning when you walk in
Yeah,
because people are done with it's like you're still going to need technology or whatever, but like just take it in bits. And when we're doing human to human work and contact and hanging out, just "Hey, everybody, let's put our phone over there."
yeah.
That'll change the world probably 75% better, just that right there. And the astrology says we have to reconnect to humanity, which is really weird that we were very connected and this is the first time we've gone through something that's where it wasn't like the Black Plague, where half the population died and we had to reconnect and everybody was afraid because of like the plagues. Now it's like we're all here still and we don't know how to talk to each other. Like I only feel comfortable to message you or to email you or to text you. I can't just show up at your house and knock on the door or like that's where our biggest work has to be is in that reconnection element.
Yeah. Being together.
Yes, in person, because that's the only place where our actual frequencies fully connect and can create grids and do light work and actually like pierce the veils. I mean, if we really want to pierce the veil here.
And we do, and we are. We
Yeah,
are.
so and
Yeah.
that's what they've really created is a system in which, you know, you're next to everybody, but you're really not. You're
Mm.
I mean, it's kind of wild, right? If you walk by people all the time and you don't even know who they are, and nobody really. I say hi all the time to anybody, and it's like 80% of the time people say nothing back, and I'm always just like, "What is going on?" Like, I just was nice. I was just like, "How are you?" And hi. It's not that hard. People are just like, like it's just uncomfort. It's just
Yeah.
it's social uncomfort, and it's okay. It's like I don't fault people for that. But I
Yeah.
think being a way shower now is going to be like, how well do you show up in community? And also, hey, don't have your agenda coming in the community. That's Pluto and
Mm.
Aquarius with the nice trine to Uranus. Like, be curious. Who's here to show me something cool? And let's see what happens through the experience of that. Being curious is your best friend right now, not I know what I'm coming in to do in the community. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have no idea. Let's get spark. Let the community spark the ideas and spark the definition of what happens. Because then you'll just be unhappy, right? You're going in with that one colored emotion. I want to feel this, and I need to feel that from everyone. Well, guess what? Maybe everybody else is on different colors, and you know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's an openness of having no idea, but just showing up and being. And that gives you permission to just be you, because we also have this agenda in our head of, oh, this is how I need to show up. But how about like the next person you meet? Just don't be what you normally think you are. And just be, just show up and just see what words speak through you and how you are. And that's so freeing. Yeah.
yeah. When I meet people I've never met before, and they go, what do you do?" I'm like, I'm into spirituality. Like, I don't say I'm an astrologer and I own this company and I do that. I just go, I do spirituality and
Yeah.
I just kind of like leave it there, and it was like, because that's what it is. I'm just, I do spirituality. I do light work. I just am in that. I don't define myself by just one
Yeah.
place. I like all the tools. So,
Yeah.
and I think
It
yeah, it's beautiful to use all of them.
exactly. Yeah. It just reminds me of the affirmation I am. I am whatever I am. Like right now, I'm Natalie having a conversation with you. Later on, I am sitting on the sofa. Like I am whatever I am experiencing myself as, but I'm not defined by what I do. Or it's more like consciousness is unfolding as I am experiencing
Mm,
myself in moment by moment. So
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
So that's how
yeah,
that's what I got to say. And I'm super happy to be with you here. And this was so great, Natalie. I truly appreciate it. And
yeah,
I'm super looking forward to the expo as well. And
yeah,
this whole new vibe.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today and for having this deep and expansive conversation. And I'll include the link for our New Living Expo below, and people
Perfect.
can read about it and links to connect with David. And thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. Namaste.